Has anybody's just been?
Okay,
Sorry,
Seth,
Brian.
we are ready.
We are ready to go?
Yes.
All right. We will call this meeting to order, 5:01 PM here. We will start with roll call. Chair, Seth, I am here. Vice Chair, Ned Dorff.
Here.
Alder Randy.
Present.
Corey Min.
Present.
John Arndt.
Present.
Deb Hutchison. Here. Julia Nordyke.
Present.
Mark Walter.
Present.
All right, we are all here.
Okay.
We will move on to approval of the agenda.
So moved.
There's a motion by Alder Randy, second by Mark. All those in favor, please say aye.
Wait.
Aye.
Um,
Lindsay's gonna say no.
Okay.
All those opposed? All right, that's approved.
Okay.
On to approval of the minutes from our November.
So moved.
There's a motion by Alder Randy. Is there a second?
Second.
There's a second by John. All those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? Wow, unanimous. Great.
Hold on a sec.
Okay.
There.
That's an action. All right, we will move on to item D, regular business. So we have consideration with possible action regarding recommendations from Eland Electric for solar installations at city-owned facilities. All right, welcome, Jesse. Thank you for...
Motion to open the floor?
Second.
There's a motion to open the floor by Randy, second by Mark. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? It's open. All right. Now, welcome.
Consideration, recommendation, possibility, that sounds like a whole lot of indecision right there.
I know, right?
I think it was in the board packet, I don't know, are you pulling it up on the?
Yeah, I'm
Okay.
about to pull it up.
So I met with you guys back in October, September? October, was it?
Ish.
Okay. We discussed a few different options, worked with Celestine and
Maya.
to narrow it down, so I think we've got it narrowed down to three basic options for the use of the $60,000 excess stadium tax money for solar PV systems that Eland Electric was awarded.
Just ignore that.
Okay.
Here, I'll do this.
Um,
So you can just go ahead.
The first page is just a document for me kind of explaining how to allocate those, the money across those three projects. I think the high priority and the first one, which is also the easiest one, and will provide the most visibility for residents, is going to be updating Light Park. So I'm earmarking about $16,000 to do a few different things there. One, replace the triangular shaped structures on top of the tracking heads. Those were old 40-watt solar panels donated by Wisconsin Public Service. I think they actually came off the old Shopko distribution center years ago. Trackers, much like Wyers Hilliard Library or Barkhausen, have a rectangular square shape to them, so we can increase the capacity of those trackers and get both of them functioning again. I think there's some issues with the tracking mechanisms, the controllers, the sensors. So about $16,000 will allow us to put brand new modules with full 25-year warranty on the modules, brand new N-phase microinverters. Those N-phase microinverters come with a 25-year warranty as well. So we're going to replace the existing SMA inverter. We're going to include a cellular data card in that system, so it'll be able to be monitored online. Right now there's a non-functioning LCD display at Light Park, which at one point in time showed lifetime kilowatt hour generation from the solar system. We won't have an LCD digital readout there, but my intentions are to somehow on the posts, the tracking mechanisms, put a scannable QR code that will link directly to the city's version of the N-phase monitoring site. So they'll see not only the production from Light Park, but they'll see energy production from the other two subsequent projects as well. So it's not a very involved project, pretty simple for us to do. We're going to lift the tracker heads off, replace the modules, put new rails on there, place the tracker heads back on, update the controls on there, put new linear actuators on there, and then rewire the inverter to the N-phase microinverters. I think we can do it for less than that, which is why I want to start with that project, because any money that's left over in my opinion, would just get distributed amongst the other two projects to increase the total capacity of those other two projects. So the other two projects, I work with Maya and Celestine. Maya did put a ton of effort into creating a very large PDF package of almost all of the city-owned facilities. We sat down and we went through and we kind of X'd out the ones that we knew had zero solar resource or were buildings that were, maybe not going to be in city possession much longer or had bad roofs and needed updated roofs on it. So we narrowed it down to, in my opinion, these two sites, Fire Station number 5 and Fire Station number 4. Both of them have utility usage that is high enough for the solar systems to not ever really sell energy back to the grid at a reduced rate. They're just going to be offsetting purchases at the retail rate of power. Fire Station number 5, I think it's on Finger Road there. The only downside to these two sites is that there really is no south-facing roof structure. So we lose about 10 to 15% of the energy from a solar system by being due east or due west facing. But these had the best, they kind of fit a few different criteria. One, they were simple to install because they're asphalt shingled roofs. 2, they were relatively visible to the public, so they wouldn't be hidden on a 3-story building where nobody's ever going to see them. The only knock against these two sites is that they're east facing or east and west facing. But we have plenty of space on Fire Station number 5 to either do it all on the east side or a mix between east and west. But the plan would be to earmark $22,000 to install roughly 12 kilowatts of solar capacity on Fire Station number 5. That would include N-phase microinverters as well. We would utilize whatever is in that building for a network connection to get the system connected to the internet so that we can monitor the production and performance of the system online. And then Fire Station number 4 would be on the east facing roof of Fire Station number 4. And that's out on West Point Road. Similar thing, $22,000 earmarked, 12 kilowatts of solar capacity with N-phase microinverters flush mounted on the roof.
And how much do we lose because they don't face up?
10 to 15%.
Really? Because you'd think, there's no trees around there or anything, you'd think it really makes a difference?
Well, the one,
Well, yeah, but it's still hitting it all the way.
what causes the drop in production is that when the sun rises, we calculate production on an average air mass of 1.5. That's just a value we use for the amount of atmosphere that the solar irradiance, not the visible light, but the solar irradiance has to travel through. When the sun is rising, it has almost twice as much atmosphere to travel through at sunrise and at sunset. So in the early morning hours, when this east-facing system will be directly exposed to the sun, there is a lot more air mass for that solar irradiance to travel through, and therefore a lot more of that gets reflected and refracted through our atmosphere. Dust particles, water particles. It's scientific.
God, I love this.
But wouldn't it still, even if it's north or south facing, the sun is still the sun, it's still going to travel, the radiation is still going to travel through the same amount of the atmosphere, regardless of where the solar collector is.
It travels through less atmosphere when it's due south-facing. At sunrise, because of the angle of the sun, you're kind of, instead of directly striking the Earth's surface, you're striking the Earth's surface at an angle, and therefore kind of almost traveling horizontally through our atmosphere instead of directly perpendicular straight down.
Yeah, and also, this is through the lowest part of the atmosphere, which has the most particles. So,
So what about the north then? Wouldn't it be the same? Or is it an evening?
It's not getting any sun from north.
There are only a few days of the year when the sun rises north of east and sets north of west. 300 and...
The sun isn't rising east-west, it's going
The sun rises east and sets west. In the wintertime, it's at about a 20-degree elevation angle. So if you look straight out on the horizon, 20 degrees up is an elevation angle. That's where the sun is at solar noon on December 21st. On June 21st, it's at about a 66-degree tilt angle. It is always in the southern hemisphere.
North of the equator.
And the Earth is not.
Because we're cockeyed.
Yeah.
That's why moss always grows on the north side of trees.
Yeah, we're cockeyed, that's a scientific term, okay.
But we did go through almost all of the city-owned properties, and There was one or two of the older fire stations that, had some decent southern exposure, but they were old buildings and the roofs were in very poor shape. The one on Mason by Fireman's Park there, we could do something on what is close to the south-facing side of Fireman's Park, but there's a couple really big trees on that side of the fire station, in between the fire station and the ball field. So unless somebody wants to start cutting trees, city-owned trees down, which usually doesn't go hand in hand with sustainability.
Unless they're ash trees.
Or cottonwoods.
Cottonwoods are great.
These are the two sites that we felt kind of offered the most bang for the buck. So in addition to that, we can, all three of the sites, I don't know if the fire stations are really public sites. I mean, I don't think the general public is walking up to the fire stations, but I would like to include that QR code, a scannable plaque with the QR code even at the fire stations for even the firemen. If, they're there and they get done washing the trucks and they're looking for something to do, they can check it out. So I would like to include that just to provide that public education atmosphere, the public education piece of it. So in total, these three systems will generate roughly 35,000 kilowatt hours of energy per year. And at the current utility rate, that's going to be close to $3,000 a year in value of solar energy being generated. That amount of energy is going to prevent 27.3 tons of carbon dioxide annually from entering the atmosphere. And that amount of carbon dioxide is equivalent to the emissions from 27,000 pounds of coal burned, 2,785 gallons of gasoline consumed, or 57.3 barrels of oil consumed. So that's the environmental piece behind it. Now, I believe we can get more capacity installed. I was very conservative with the numbers because we're going to be doing this at our own cost. We're really not marking this up at all. So normally on a bid project, we have overhead and profit being the key part in there, where if something doesn't go right, we have a little bit of fluff to kind of keep our butts covered. We don't have that here, so I'm trying to be conservative with the numbers, which is why I want to start with Lights Park, get that one done, see where the cost came out, and then allocate whatever funding is left over. Instead of coming back and saying, hey, we saved $3,000, where do we want to stick it? My plan would be to just take whatever is left and divide that up amongst the two fire station projects and put as many kilowatts, as many solar panels, as much capacity as we can on those two fire stations.
I like it.
So Jesse, why did we move the two fire stations ahead of the Bay Beach Pavilion, which faces south?
Bay Beach is the wild card. I threw that in here. Celestine and
Yes.
Maya and I talked about that. It is, in my opinion, the best candidate. It checks all the boxes in terms of the best place to put solar.
But it's historic.
The wild
It's
card.
historic. I don't know if I mean, I'm for progress, but
We
I am a little old-fashioned sometimes.
are currently looking at designing a bathhouse for Bay Beach, and so I don't know if would be a good application for something like this on the bathhouse, which is going to be a new structure and, could, I would think, be easily incorporated into the design since it's still in design phase right now. So I guess that's another possibility.
Maybe we should look at that, but on a different level, as far as when we build new buildings in Green Bay, how do we incorporate solar
Yes.
in the design? Not necessarily from this pot of Lambo money, but I think that might be a bigger conversation.
The challenge with a bathhouse is that I did look at the utility history and utility usage at the Bay Beach Pavilion, or at the Bay Beach Pavilion. And there are quite a few different electric services on that property. The best I can tell, the one for that particular building right there has a pretty decent overall annual usage. So even in the wintertime, the building is heated or at least relatively maintained in terms of temperature. So there seems to be a pretty good baseline month by month. Even when Bay Beach is, dormant over the wintertime, there still seems to be a decent amount of usage at that facility. The challenge with a bathhouse is that if it's really just literally shut down for the winter, all of the energy generated from a solar system would be sold to the utility company at about 70%, 30% of the value, a 70% reduction in value than if it's offsetting your retail purchases.
So if it's on a building, it can only service that building? It can't service a building 200 feet away?
If that building 200 feet away is connected from the same service, yes. Code-wise, there gets to be some electrical code issues in terms of us.
I know those guys.
We could ask Steve and Kevin for their blessing and permission. But traditionally, yes, we try to keep, from a safety side of things too, if we put solar on the bathhouse but it's backfeeding the pavilion, if there's an issue with the pavilion, a fire, an emergency issue, the last thing we want those emergency personnel to do is shine a flashlight, read a placard, and realize, oh crap, the bathhouse is 100 feet that way. Someone run over there and turn off the solar panels. So from a safety side of things, we try to keep solar on the building that it's serving electrically. So I put that one at the end because it really is a wild card. Not a decision I have enough information to make, not a decision, not even a suggestion I have enough information to say, I think you should. What I can tell you is that Bay Beach checks every one of the boxes. In terms of visibility, viability, cost effectiveness, south-facing, shade-free. Every one of the boxes that we looked at when we went through the rest of the city-owned properties, this one, if I had to score them, this would have ranked at the top of the list.
Has anybody approached the Friends?
No. Not yet.
Jesse, are you saying this would approach the top of the list for the entire amount of money left over from Light Park? There would be enough to use?
This would be a better application than two separate 12 kW systems at Fire Station 4 and Fire Station 5. Now, I don't know that we would want to put in anything bigger than 20 kW, only because it gets us out of that net metering agreement, but we could easily put 20 kW on Bay Beach and then pick one of the other two fire stations and put whatever's left on one of the fire stations.
So the usage for Bay Beach, you mentioned the heating in the winter, and we know that that's probably gas, right?
I would assume it's gas, and the usage, the detailed usage report that I have just lists like 5 different electric services for the Bay Beach Pavilion. One of those is probably the Zip and Pippin, one of those is probably some of the other rides on the other sides of the park. So without going out on site and working with, somebody in the Parks Department or somebody who works at Bay Beach to really take some pictures of the utility meters and verify which account is what. I don't know definitively which one of those utility meters has the big annual usage, but knowing what's at Bay Beach, it's not the Zip and Pippin. There's certain things I know that it's not, and that building was the only building that I could think of that would have consistent annual usage. Electric usage.
Yeah, I'm surprised to know that there is consistent annual electric usage that would get up to that 20 kW level. That's a surprise.
It was pretty sizable.
Well, maybe it's worth approaching the Friends and having a conversation and see how it flows. I don't know.
Well, before we discuss a little bit more, just want Maya, my intern, to talk a little bit about how she put together, this is not the PowerPoint, because her PowerPoint is much bigger. This is a sort of whittled down version that Jesse used to essentially give us all the particulars. But Maya, why don't you just say a few words about how you did it, how you did it.
So I took Google images from Google Earth and looked up each address from the list that, was it from Eland Electric?
Yeah, it's from Eland.
Yeah, so we received like a spreadsheet of each city-owned building that had a energy bill of over $500 a month. So I had to look up each address and take a bird's eye view, a street view, and put it together in a, that would be bird's eye, and then the next one would be street, listing the address, the meter number, and making sure there was some sort of compass on there to show which was north and south. Like Jesse had explained, the southern exposure is pretty important in determining the candidates. So And I also kind of listed them as Parks and Rec, Fire, Police, City Hall, and split them in that order. And then we kind of went through it and determined that these were the best candidates out of all of them. So yeah.
So, that's the presentation. Thank you so much.
Yep. The last thing I wanted to do was come here and create more questions than answers. I think I created a lot of questions in October, so I was really hoping to just come and say, here you go, where's the rubber stamp? But it was after, reviewing that, and then I took some more time to review through things a little more thoroughly, and this Bay Beach one just stood out at me as, again, it checks all the boxes. But the wild card is it's a historic building. There's a lot of different organizations that I believe are involved in the maintenance and maintaining Bay Beach, so I think that's, a bigger decision. But I do believe that Light Park should be its own little separate stamp of approval. I think that's an important piece to get that functioning and get more capacity in there. I think right now each tracker is about 1.5 kilowatts in size. We're going to bump each tracker up to 3.8 kilowatts in size. So we're going to, triple the capacity of each tracker. We're going to get them tracking again, so they're actually following the sun and moving. So I think Light Park should be its own little separate kind of category, and then the next category is going to be, do we split it up amongst 2 fire stations, we as in you, or do we try to get permission for something at Bay Beach, nothing at Bay Beach? I could probably work up a 3D rendering of what, at least an aerial view of what solar would look like on the pavilion. I know that's, aesthetics is going to be a big question for anybody involved over there. And Ned's got solar on his garage if anybody really is curious what they physically look like.
Garage.
Yeah. Some of you are invited to come over.
So, I'm here for questions, or here for answers if you guys have any questions, but that's what I had. And I think initially we had talked about trying to do something at least by spring, so that come Earth Day, I think you guys are doing kind of a big Earth Day spiel here, or at least talking about it. This would be a pretty neat thing. Light Park I think would be the prime candidate for hosting a ribbon cutting ceremony, a sustainability commission achievement or milestone, whatever you want to do. But Earth Day is always kind of a nice story, that follows along stuff like this.
Unless it snows 4 feet.
That is true.
They're doing a lot of Earth Day issue cleanups. So-
As far as energy use at Light Park, are we talking basically the lights? I mean, what energy do we use at Light Park that this would offset, or are we just paying, is this just going to be a utility rate?
This one, a chunk of it's going to be utility rate. I don't know if I had Light Park included in the spreadsheet that I had, but I will definitely dig into that. I know there are at times events that go on out there. If you have, basically one event a month, a band or something that chews up quite a bit of the energy generated from a solar system. This time of year, I don't think there's much for things happening at Light Park.
So it's more of a showpiece. I mean, it's not
is.
going to, return on investment is not what we're looking at here.
Well, the return on investment is day one, because there's really no money you guys are investing out of your own pocket.
Yeah.
But, correct.
Okay.
I mean, the value of energy.
I think it would be nice if they could hook it up to events there.
Mhm.
Yeah.
'Cause-
Well, it's more of like, what are we offsetting by so if you have solar, you get paid back at a net rate if you're actually using energy on that site. But if you're not really using energy on that site, then they treat you like you're a mini utility, and they pay you back, like Jesse said, like 30% of the rate instead of the full rate. So that's why I was asking, what do we actually use at Light Park? Are we gonna get paid back at the 30% rate? Probably, right? Probably. gonna be
Is
that.
it to go in, it was a car charging station too?
Yeah, it's going to be tied into the grid though, right? It's going to send the electricity back into the grid. The car charging station is going to be connected to it.
And this does remove the car charging station from that. So the end phase
Okay.
microinverters do not have an option for a built-in car charger. Now, we can always add a level 2 car charger to Light Park, which would, in theory, increase the usage at Light Park, and therefore the solar would offset that usage at the retail rate, but it's usage that you didn't have before. So we're adding usage into the piece of the puzzle instead of taking it away. And the only reason, and I kind of spelled it out in the letter up above, but the reason I think that Light Park, we should maybe just get away from the car charger is because these other two projects would be N-phase microinverters. So a QR code, a scannable link for the public to view the monitoring on. If we do everything with N-phase microinverters, they can click on that link and they can see all 3 sites, whether it's Light Park, Fire Station 4, Fire Station 5, and or Bay Beach. They can see all of that from one public link. If we do the Solar Edge style inverter at Light Park with the built-in level 2 EV charger, it would be a separate monitoring platform than that of the N-phase microinverters at the other sites.
Would that change the cost at all if you did the separate EV compatible thing?
No. No, I think, I mean, again, I was very conservative with that $16,000. I think we can still do the level 2 EV car charger with the Solar Edge inverter platform at Light Park for that 16 grand. If we go N-phase, realistically, it might be 12 or 13. So that's just more money freed up to split on the other projects.
What does a level 2 mean? How long does it take?
Level 2 is what we call a fast charger, so typically 40 to about 40 amps, a 40 amp supply. When you have a level 1 car charger, that's the one that at home you plug into the normal receptacle in your garage, about 10 amps of current charge rate. Typically, it depends on the vehicle, the model. A level 1 charger probably takes about 10 hours to charge a car, where a level 2 might be 3 to 4. And then you get into the level 3 or the fast charge, the supercharge stations, like the Meyer store has the Tesla superchargers, and that's 480 volts at 100 amps of current. That's, you know, charging your Tesla in about 45 minutes. So.
I have another question. So the monitoring seems to be a really nice thing for the public to buy into and get educated with. Will there be any signage, or like how will they know about this? That I know you have the QV, what do you call it, QV code?
QR code.
QR code, okay.
Yep, that's that square barcode that typically most smartphones, you just, like you're taking a picture, you scan it, and it'll automatically direct your phone to a website.
Will you guys be doing like a little sign with that, to like a little education on it?
Yeah, if we're gonna build a plaque that has a QR code, we'll definitely make the plaque big enough to
Okay.
announce, state, proclaim, explain, you know, something.
Yeah.
And obviously, heavy input from you guys on what that signage says, but something that says, you know, sponsored by the Green Bay Sustainability Commission, or committee, this is a XKW solar system generating this much energy, and, you
Yeah.
know.
That's probably the best place for it at Light Park. I mean, you could do it at the fire stations
Could do it at the
too,
fire
if that's
station,
what we decided to do, but, yeah, not much traffic.
Do people use QR codes?
I do.
I do,
I've done.
at the museums and stuff.
Okay.
I mean, if I'm searching up a
I'm just
product,
curious.
I might just Google search, you know, whatever this widget is, but when there's a very specific URL that I have to go to, if there's a QR code, just scan the QR code.
Okay.
Otherwise, the instructions to help people, to navigate people to that public link would be like 4 or 5 plaques.
Yeah, I was just curious
Big.
if people use them.
Yeah.
Yep.
We tend to put them on our publications for public to get, you know, when they want to know recycling something. When we publish stuff, we put QR codes on almost everything we can that has a specific link, and they're really easy to generate, so. put
Yeah, I
in the
knew
QR
that.
code
I
generator.
just didn't know if people actually.
So like if you get tickets.
So
So if you get
one-
tickets
One question I
online,
had for
there's a
you,
QR
so my
code.
business is recycling.
Okay?
What happens
Your
with the scrap
boarding
solar
pass.
Yeah,
panels?
yeah.
Those
Is there
scrap
not-
solar panels are gonna have to we'll take care of recycling them. We've had a few vendors that we've worked with over the years who have attempted to recycle them. You know,
Yeah, that's what I was wondering.
usually there's a fee for it. Those aren't like,
Well, are they even recyclable from what I've read so far?
80% of it's recyclable. So lately there's been some fake news, false advertisements, whatever you want to call it, about the inability to recycle these materials. Solar panels are comprised of between 80 and 90% recyclable materials. It's glass, it's aluminum, it's silica, It's silver, solder, and copper conductor. There's a white polymer backsheet that's usually not easily recycled, but everything else is glass, aluminum, if you have a market. Yes.
Jesse, so with the light park panels, is there a way to do the panels and then have just a separate, like not connected to those poles? I mean, the EV chargers, then we could still use the same inverters that you were looking at using? I guess that's my question, is can we just...
We could install anywhere a level 2 generic charger. We could put that on one of the poles, both of the poles, over by the fence that, you know, protects all the electrical equipment over there. One of the parking stalls. Before I fully commit to that, I should probably verify some of the conduit sizes that we have underground. That was 10 years ago that we put that in, so I don't remember what we put in for conduit sizes, but I'm pretty sure it's going to be big enough to accommodate just a standalone level 2 car charger. Now, to Deb's point, the firemen's park stations probably aren't going to get the public at the firemen stations to really scan QR codes and see what those are doing. So I don't know that it's a deal breaker if we go with the Solar Edge inverter and the built-in level 2 car charger. The nice thing with that is that you are directly using the solar energy to charge a car if you happen to plug in during the daytime. So the farmer's market on Wednesdays or whatever day that is, when people, I'm thinking a lot of people park at Light Park. I have to admit I've never been here for a farmer's market on a Wednesday, but I've had to drive through here and it sucks. But people that, you know, want to park there and plug in, they're going to be directly using solar power to charge their car.
And if the sun isn't out at that point, then it'll draw power from the grid to charge their car?
Yes, and because we're under 20 kW, it'll be a net metering agreement, meaning that if you generate excess solar during the day and you're spinning the utility meter backwards, people plug in their car in the evening hours and they're just spinning the meter forward. Your meter just spins forward and backwards, accumulating, increasing and decreasing in value based on you having a net consumption or a net generation. So if day one of the billing cycle, the meter at Light Park says 5,000, the next day it's bright and sunny, nobody's plugging their car in, nobody's using power, it might spin backwards to 4,900. Following day it's cloudy and it's a farmer's market and it spins forward to 5,500. It's just going to spin forward and backward all month long until the end of the billing cycle when the utility looks at it and says, what is the meter reading now versus what was it at the beginning of the month? And they either bill you for the net consumption or they credit you for the net generation. So we don't always have to instantaneously use the energy when it's being generated. That's why we targeted $500 a month bill to go through all the city-owned properties, because we knew at $500 a month, even a 20 kW system, you'd still have a net usage on any of those facilities. And that might have been why Light Park wasn't in the original, didn't make the original cut in the list, because I don't think it has that big of a usage, especially with the solar that's there right now, which the inverter should still be working even if they're not facing in the right direction. Those modules are still generating power. But I can go back and look at the detailed usage history on Light Park, just to provide some more information on.
Do you think they'll be used? It's such an isolated place, like right in the middle of Light Park, unless there's a festival going on or something. If it takes 3 or 4 hours to charge your car.
Well,
you know,
when I say hours, it might take hours to fully charge
But you could
a
go
fully
from
depleted car.
50% to full, or from something, you know, if you've driven it around town to get there and then you plug
Yeah.
in to top it up, or, you know,
Yeah.
complete your- it's like your cell phone.
People are frugal, and if there's any opportunity to even get
That's true,
an
yeah.
hour of charging that they don't have to pay for, they'll plug in. Our Union Hall is on the other side of town. We're by Aurora, and we have a car charger at our Union Hall, and it's free to the public to use. And every day, every night, 24 hours a day, nearly 24 hours a day, there's a car plugged in there. And it's usually somebody that works at the hospital that walks across
Oh,
Greenbrier Road
Oh,
through
okay.
the walking trails to the
Yeah.
hospital.
Yeah, because I was thinking if it's at a place of work, of course it would be used, but
Yep.
it's sort of
Light Park's
across the
Broadway
tracks.
and, I mean, Dousman, it's a pretty busy area. There's
Yeah.
a lot of stuff to do right there.
Yeah.
I think,
Tap room.
You got, yeah, you got beer.
I leave it there all night.
Park overnight. Corey?
In the park.
I mean, is that part of the park?
Oh, you couldn't leave overnight.
Yeah, I don't think you can.
No,
You could leave the park over there.
And we would
Not
want,
getting
As long
ticketed.
as it's yours, that's the whole point.
It'd be worth your while.
That it
Might
gets
be.
used.
Yeah, I don't know how much
Okay.
you're saving.
and at some point in
versus how
time, we
much
can
it's
include
getting.
some controls into that car charger so that it doesn't actually work from 10 PM to 6 AM to really discourage, you're not too far away from apartments at Light Park, and,
Yeah, that's true too, yeah.
you're probably
It's
walking
really
distance from a
changing.
handful of
Right,
apartments.
that's
So you
absolutely
might
right.
end up with people who are just parking there overnight, walking to the apartment, and again, free
Where
electricity.
that Quonset
Okay.
building is now condos.
Yeah.
So.
Right.
So we as a commission have to discuss whether we want this charger to actually be tied to solar power or whether we want it to be standalone, basically.
It would be less expensive to have it built into the solar system.
Okay.
We would save money. We'd have more money available for more capacity at the other locations if we went with a solar edge inverter with a built-in car charger at Light Park instead of the N-phase microinverters.
Would you ever end up in a situation where it's being used so much that now the city is having to pay a bill to charge people's cars?
Yes, it is kind of a catch-22 there. The hopes are is that, if you only have the one level 2 car charger, I don't think you need to put in 2 of them, but if you only put in one actual port to plug in a car, the amount of time that people would plug in and charge probably would not be greater than the amount of energy being generated by the solar system, except for maybe November, December, when it's typically the cloudiest months of the year and you're generating the least amount of energy. But then again, the weather gets to be not enjoyable for people to plug in at Light Park and walk a half a mile to where they're working. I know today, nobody would have parked there and walked downtown to work. I wouldn't think so. I could be wrong, but again,
You'd be surprised if
people
you're
are
paying
frugal.
40 bucks a month or 60 bucks a month to park someplace.
They can
So would
say,
you
yeah.
your recommendation would put one in?
My recommendation, based on this conversation, would be to use a solar edge inverter with optimizers, so you'd still be able to see the performance of every individual solar panel at Light Park. And that would be a 7.6 kW solar edge inverter with a built-in level 2 EV charger. Whatever's left, Fireman Station 4, Fireman Station 5, Bay Beach. But I would recommend that any of those 3 properties are good candidates for the rest of the money for flush roof-mounted solar systems.
To do the light lifting first.
Ooh, you got a good pun in there?
Pun intended.
Always.
The light lifting. And I made sure that it was liked park this time, not likes. And again, there is public URLs available, so we can create a public monitoring link for the Solar Edge monitoring platform at Light Park. There's also a key.
About that, I know the Parks Department specifically, I don't know about other city departments, but we hesitate to, and to my knowledge, don't really like to have links in the parks for websites that we don't manage ourselves. And so I know in a park situation, that could be an issue for, as far as that goes. So just wanted to mention that.
Okay.
Whether or not this, I don't think it's totally out of the water. It would have to be talked about, I think, so.
Sure. I think we would still have it connected to the internet and monitored, even if it's a little bit tougher for them to find the monitoring link, just purely from a maintenance and trackability side of things too. We want to make sure it's working. We want to make sure all the modules are functioning, the inverter's up and running. Then we get historical data too. Last month it generated this many kilowatt hours, this month it generated that many kilowatt hours.
And I just really have concerns of who is going to foot the bill if they are using that car charger so much, is that, who's paying it?
So to provide a little more clarification on how that solar edge inverter works and how it looks, is that it's an inverter that would be installed right on the pole, and it basically just has a cable and a gun. A charging gun, I should clarify that. Regular JT21 style car charging gun that you plug into your car. That cord and gun can very easily be disconnected.
Oh,
If in 6 months, we find out, you find out, the city finds out that, hey, now we're starting to get $100 bills at Lake Park, maybe we should back this off a little bit. Just throwing that out there. It would be very easy, if that is a big concern, it would be very easy to disable the charging by just physically removing it. The general public would have no knowledge that there ever was, unless they were there before, but it's not like it would say, this is a charging inverter, we lost the gun. We just take the cable and the gun off and you wouldn't know the difference.
Okay.
And you can't park there overnight, right? So what time does that start at?
It's usually 1 to 4 or something like that, no parking. It'd be kind of like it was parking on the street, wouldn't it? Or
Parks-
for
parks
a park, it might even be
earlier.
I should
10.
know this.
With a park, it might even be
No.
10 to 7 or something.
Parks are early.
I think it's like 8 a.m. to 10 p.m. or something along those lines.
Yeah.
So, and then maybe there's a calculation we could do to say if someone used it every day of a month, all day, but not overnight, like how much would that energy would that cost, or would that be pulling?
Can't do that in my head, but I can run that on paper.
And then compare that to potential of what it's
What it
going
would
to
generate.
generate.
Yep. That calculation I can perform. And we can include time-based controls as well. So we would basically just put in a time clock that completely disables the charging port
Oh,
from
At 10 p.m.
8 p.m. to,
yeah, there we go.
I mean, you guys have signs all over the city that say 2-hour parking from Monday through Friday.
Yeah, well, right there.
And then you would definitely want to let the public know this charger is only active, from 8 a.m. to 4 p.m. Whatever the case is, but there's, some other ways to kind of combat that concern, which is a legitimate concern.
Yeah.
More questions than answers, I apologize.
That's great.
But I want to make sure we get it right and
Yeah.
that everybody's on board with whatever decision.
Well, if we can control it, I'm not worried then about even getting data on, if we can control it, we can do anything as we experience what's going on. So,
And I think if the park department is not okay with having a QR, there might be a way to still do for the park department to link on a park department webpage, and then at the site it could say, go to the parks department webpage to see how much solar we're generating in our parks or something like that, right? There's gotta be a way to do
Right.
that where I
Yeah.
do want this to be something that the public has access to. No matter what we do, I want them to be able to see that we're generating some energy through this project.
And you could also provide a QR code on that plaque that says, check out our other solar initiatives. And that would link them to the Enphase microinverter systems at the fireman stations or
Right.
Bay Beach or.
Right.
I mean, there's ways to get everybody there's ways to get the public to view multiple links.
Yeah.
So, or we just look at the other places and we put solar edge inverters there as well. Now, I'm assuming the fire department doesn't have electric cars yet?
no,
Okay.
not yet.
Next meeting.
Next meeting.
But future planning, future proofing, maybe it's not a bad idea to put level 2 car chargers in at the fireman stations for that potential of, the fire chief running around in a little Prius or Tesla or.
Yeah,
Well, no, you never
Tesla
know.
Give up their
truck.
SUVs for that.
Yeah,
He's
the
got a
big Tesla
truck,
truck.
right?
Yeah.
That giant stainless steel,
Yeah, well, it's coming, so.
a lot of options, but
Yeah.
hopefully narrowed it down a little bit from last
Yep, yep.
meeting. I do think Lake Park is priority number 1 and the easiest to scratch off the list. And then a few questions yet on the rest of the money. But I'm talking to Celestine and Maya, would hope that by maybe the January meeting, there might be some resolution and then we can start ordering materials, getting some plans in place. Lake Park, we could do as early as the middle of January. It's, we don't mind working outside. I had guys working on roofs today, putting solar panels in, so.
You don't mind.
Yeah.
That's why I have a light jacket. But I want to make sure that we leave ourselves enough time to really get all of these up and functional before Earth Day.
So a motion to close the floor.
There's
Discuss?
motion to close the floor by Alder Andy,
Second.
second by Mark. All those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? All right, Thank you, Jesse.
No problem.
That was great.
Well, I'd like to make a motion
All right, we've got a motion.
that we approve the Light Park solar, and that we refer to the Parks Department the possibility of putting solar on at Bay Beach. They could take it to committee, that would open it up to the public, the Friends of Bay Beach, we get all the input we need, and discussion, see if that's a possibility or not. And if not, then we know where we stand.
Sorry, can we start with the first one?
Sure.
Because there's options, right?
Right, we need
He's
to
want-
flesh out
he-
the options.
He wants,
Okay,
he would
so I
like
need a motion and a
direction.
second.
Right.
Well, that's,
No. I don't
Light
think
Park
there's
would be
a-
the first direction.
Or just what the decision, whatever the recommendation.
I just don't know if there's a second for that
I don't know.
long motion.
It's two parts.
I don't think it's.
It's two parts.
I don't think
Okay.
I heard a second.
I
Hold
haven't
on,
heard
let me
the
just,
second.
I'm so sorry, let me, there is a flood meeting at 6:30, and I have to be there. When I made this meeting, I didn't have to be there, and now I have to be there. So I just wanted to, and just to be clear that we need to be pithy in our conversation. Okay.
Precise.
Continue.
I gotta go take.
So I have a motion on the floor.
Yeah, and that way, if we send it to committee, Parks Committee, we will know whether that's a viable option or not. And once we know that, then we can decide what we want to do at the fireman stations. We could,
But I tend to agree with Ned that there's two motions. One is dealing with Light Park, and one is dealing with Bay Beach. Because
all right,
Light Park-
well, then I
Light
make a
Park-
motion that we approve Light Park, making Light Park solar, changing
Okay, second.
All right, there's
agenda
a-
item, okay.
There's a
Now let's
motion.
discuss it.
Motion by Randy, second by Ned, and just to clarify, you want to do with the EV?
Yes,
Okay,
yeah.
cool.
With the 7.6 kW solar edge inverter with optimizer?
That sounds cool.
Potentially time.
That sounds
the thing.
Time
With built-in level 2 EV charger? Is that what we're going
and
Yeah.
Okay.
time.
From 6:30 AM to 10:30 PM. on Light
Management
Park.
structures.
Well, we can, that doesn't
Time
have to be,
control,
I mean, that
time
comes
control.
automatic, right? We don't have to, yeah.
It's an add-on.
Oh, it's an add-on, okay, yeah, that, yeah.
I just want to bring up the point that if we are still considering Bay Beach, and there could be a possibility where maybe that lighting would, or the solar panels would potentially go in the bathhouse instead of the pavilion, just wondering if there might be extra funding to make that connection, and if that Light Park funding would be needed to do that. If we wanted to wait on the light decision just to explore Bay Beach further, or if everybody's in agreement that it's just the pavilion only
Just a
that we would be
pavilion
looking
only,
at.
I don't think,
Okay.
I don't think the bathhouse gets the same.
I think because it's not up, right? It doesn't exist.
Well, it hopefully will be by opening of next year, so.
And I just
But as
think
far
we
as
need to get
usage-
this done.
Yeah.
We need to get this money
Okay.
dispersed like a little, or dispersed, but we need, it's been out there for a year now. You've had it?
Yeah.
3?
Oh, jeez.
A year or 3?
And I think if we're gonna do something at Bay Beach, it would make sense to do, I mean, it wouldn't make sense to do the bathhouse, just the bathhouse. And it makes more sense to do the pavilion.
But I thought the bathhouse could get power to the.
Well,
pavilion
that's not a good
at the same
idea,
time.
it sounds like, if there was a
Okay.
fire or something that,
Okay, I didn't know that was off the table, so.
yeah, but.
There also might be other like funding opportunities, low interest loan money from the State Board of Commissioners of Public Lands for solar projects. So if we have something, that will take a little bit longer to figure out how to use. So if that is, if there's more questions that need to be answered, there's still an opportunity for solar on the new bathhouse, which would be cool, I think.
Okay, perfect.
So
Okay, so the
on the-
motion on the floor is to approve the installation of Light Park solar array. This is a whole installation, right? With the EV charger, and I'll get that language from you later. That is the motion on the floor. I have a first and a second.
Any further discussion? All right, we'll go into a vote. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, say nay. All right, that one passes.
All right, now I'll make a motion that we forward an agenda item to the Parks Committee to look at the possibility of putting solar on the pavilion. And if you could do a mock-up of what that would look like for the committee, that would be helpful, I think, in helping them decide on if they really are interested in that or not. And then once we know that, we'll know where we stand on what else we can do. So, motion to refer that to Parks.
I second.
All right, there's a motion by Randy, second by Julia. Any discussion on this?
Would you want to phrase your motion to say basically that if Bay Beach is not viable, that we go ahead with fire stations?
Well,
So that it
then it
doesn't-
becomes a long, I mean, I thought you didn't like long.
Well, but that way, I mean, that way it's a longer resolution, but it means that it doesn't have to come back here for a vote to go to the fire station again. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
Does that mean once it goes there, then if it's not happening, it's just not happening, and that's it, too?
Well, Bay
Well, how about this?
We'd have to vote on
No,
that
the
again.
council has ultimate say over everything.
Everything,
anyway, so-
right, right. So how about the motion would be to send this to Parks, and if Parks approves putting solar on the pavilion, that would then go to the council. I don't think it needs to come back to us, and that the remainder would go to, but then we'd have to pick a fire station. We just can't say one of the fire stations. Which fire station do you like?
Finger Road.
Finger Road probably.
Oh,
Figure
wait.
that out on your own?
Dude.
No, it just seemed to be a better.
Yeah,
fit.
I think that you would want to say, because the fire department would want to know, I mean, in conjunction with the engineering department and the finance committee, about the installation of either of those at 4 or 5 fire station, or number 4 and number 5. They would want to have a say in it. So you could say, if rejected, to send to the fire chief for his consideration of stations 4 and 5.
Or even if accepted, the remainder going to station, which one's Finger Road? 4?
4.
4.5?
No,
Five.
5 is Finger Road,
5 and
4
3?
is West Point.
4. So my motion would be then to send an item to Park to approve putting solar on the pavilion at Bay Beach, with the remainder going to Station 5, and if Parks rejects putting solar on Bay Beach, then it would go to Stations 4 and 5 split evenly.
And you're saying to put up to 20 kW of solar, correct? At the pavilion, 20 kW was the recommendation?
Yes, that's recommended.
So up to,
Up to,
not exceeding 20 kW.
yeah.
So that's the motion by
Okay.
Randy.
Say that again, because I was actually disagreeing with you when you were talking, so. you say that
Well,
again.
let's take care of the disagreement so we can get the motion
No,
right.
no, no,
Right.
let's just put.
I think Randy was saying in his motion that the first recommendation to the Parks Committee
Mhm.
would be that we would install up to and not exceeding 20 kW worth of solar panel on the Bay Beach Park Pavilion, right? And then the remainder of the money, if that was all accepted, would go to Station 5.
Okay.
However, if the Park Department did not want panels on Bay Beach, all of the money would then be allocated to fire stations,
4 and 5,
and we would want that, as you said, to go
evenly.
in front of the
Fire chief.
fire chief.
Yeah, that would be referred to the fire chief.
All right, so is there a second on that? Just a second to that?
Who wants
Got
to
that? Everybody got that?
Yeah,
I'll second.
second by Deb. All right.
We need a flow chart for that.
Yeah.
Diagrams.
Systems that
So do we have any discussion on this
Flow chart
motion?
to the fire chief.
Yeah, that's right.
Just in the interest of time, guys, do we have discussion on this item?
Relevant discussion.
Yeah,
I
relevant
guess the
discussion,
only,
please.
and I know, I'm sorry, the time, I'm just, so if it goes to the Parks Committee, there's some nuance that Jesse had brought up about like why it was the best, most favorable location also, and I don't, is that going to be that kind of like.
Yes, the Parks Committee will get all that information. I'm hoping you can show up with the mock-up of what it would look like, because that would definitely, I think, help with their decision-making. They'll get, the friends will be notified of this, they'll get their input in, and when you notice to the public can give their input in. So it'd be a good way to find out if there's interest in this, if it's viable, if it's gonna go forward.
Okay.
So my thoughts on this, and I don't feel like 100% strongly about this, so I guess take that with a grain of salt. I'm concerned a little bit about the timeline that this might take in terms of going to parks and the Friends of the Bay Beach and getting the public input and potential backlash that could provoke. I like to think that this will be the first of many opportunities we have to make solar recommendations. If we're doing our job right, I think that there is, available funding from the state that we could pursue at a later time. I think that this would make a really great location for solar. I think we should begin to have that conversation. However, we do also have two really good locations in the fire stations. So that would be, I guess I would, after hearing the presentation, like to do the two fire stations and then begin the conversation about Bay Beach for future projects. So that's my 2 cents.
I like that because you could potentially integrate also the bathhouse along with the pavilion, like into a bigger project.
Yeah.
Yeah, I came in wanting to do Bay Beach, and after seeing the presentation and hearing what you had to say, and thinking about, Bay Beach is its own unique item. It's a really beloved public landmark. If we wanted to do a Bay Beach project, I think that could, in and of itself, generate some interest, and that it doesn't need to draw from the Lambo money. So that's my opinion on that.
It's true, if the friends like it, they might fundraise for it. If they like it, and if they don't like it, they probably kill it.
If they don't like it, they kill it, maybe.
Yeah, well,
No.
I think they'd have a big say.
Right.
So,
And if it were its own project, it could be done differently, not just a little bit. But the panels could be actually artistic or something like that, they could be, if it were its own project.
you do a design on the roof.
Yeah, I mean, maybe that's not the most economical way to use most panels, but, yeah, that's not a bad idea.
Further discussion?
Yeah.
Well, we should vote on my motion and
Yes.
vote on your
All
motion.
right, all those in favor of Randy's?
I'm just gonna call. I'm gonna call you one at a time.
Okay, yeah.
That will make it easier. Randy,
No.
you're voting against your own motion?
Yep.
God, I'm
Can you just
persuasive.
You are.
Can you withdraw them instead?
Well, yeah, let me withdraw the motion. That just
I'll
makes it
withdraw my
easier.
second.
I was gonna vote.
Uh,
And then
Barb,
I'll
Deb.
withdraw my second.
Who had the second? I don't
Deb,
know.
Deb.
All right.
Yeah, that makes it
Okay,
easier.
new motion.
Oh, I just
All
had to
right,
interpret it.
so I would like to make a motion to, following the light park installation, to divide the remaining money amongst the two recommended fire stations.
Well, should the amendment be that this goes to the fire chief first?
Yeah.
Okay.
So, I mean, I'm
The-
assuming he's gonna be on board, that could be.
Fire doesn't know anything about this yet, at
No.
this point? Okay.
No,
Oh,
we
yeah,
had to
let's
talk
tell
about it
them.
first. Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
so your motion's to,
To
I would just refer this to staff.
Refer to staff.
Right?
Mhm. Yes, and then also within that, begin the process to talk to Parks and the Friends of Bay Beach. Or should that be a separate?
that should
Hold
be
on.
separate.
Separate, okay. never mind.
For installation of solar.
I could have amended my
I
motion.
do wonder though, with the like park, if that would need park committee approval. I mean, it is changing the use of the space with the charger. I don't know.
So what I will do is, I will talk to Dan
Okay.
about, because I mean, he knows about the solar array and the need for it to be fixed, and there wasn't
Sure.
any money here, and he knows about it.
Right.
So I'll see what he says.
Okay.
Yeah, 'cause it is
Everyone
more
that's on
charging.
park committee gets to
That
vote on
does-
it at council anyway. But not, the fire chief doesn't get to vote on it, so I think that's why we should run it by staff in that direction.
All right, so are we good on that motion?
So I'm going to say, so
She's
what I
gonna talk
have
to
is to
Dan.
refer to staff to explore the installation of solar arrays at stations 4
And
and 5.
Motion seconded.
And seconded by John.
Okay, Okay, wait, hold on a second. Okay.
All right, any discussion before going to a vote?
I didn't hear the motion. I was participating in table talk.
To refer to staff to explore the installation of solar arrays at stations, I'll fix it, stations 4 and 5. Okay?
All right, discussion? Go to a vote. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? All right, motion carries.
Okay. Now, we have this is actually a really good agenda. Like, this is a really good agenda. But I have to go. I'm so sorry. So, well, I know, and Julia had.
I'm going. I have to
Okay.
go to this meeting.
Yes.
I was gonna go.
So,
I know, and I did invite everyone to the meeting, and I did notice it, so it's okay for all of us to go.
Oh.
I am so sorry about that. Like I said, didn't realize I had to be there when I scheduled this meeting. So I think we made some good decisions today, but what we can do is, someone would make a motion to refer all the remaining items to our next meeting, then that's what we can do.
It's all informational.
It is, but I think
Right,
it's.
I mean, it's not like we're,
There's a motion by Ned to refer all remaining information to
Second.
our January meeting, all the way next decade, seconded by Randy. All right.
I don't know if I can wait that long.
All those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All right, all those opposed.
Motion to adjourn.
There's a motion to adjourn by Randy, second by John. All those in favor?
Aye.
All those opposed? We're
All right,
adjourned.
thank you, everybody.
I just wanted to let everybody know that on Monday,